Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Friday Live Q&A. This is the place where I go live every Friday to answer any questions that you have around life, relationships, anywhere where you are stuck, anything that I can assist, be of service around. My name is Fiona Lukes, for those of you who don't know me, and I specialize in teaching people a completely different way to be in relationship, to move through the relationships and to have really easy, effortless relationships. And yes, that is possible. I know a lot of people hear that with a healthy amount of skepticism, and I can understand that based on the very complicated and misleading things that are kind of pushed out there in the world, or the amount of information that's pushed out there in the world. But I really want you to know you can have really easy and effortless relationships. So, I'm going here live on Friday to see where I can be of service, where I can help, where I can add value, whether I can answer any questions that you have. So if you are joining me live, and I can see some people coming onto the live now, as always, please say hi. I always love to know where you are from, and I appreciate people letting me know that they're out there in Facebook land, and that they are listening. So if you are out there and you are watching, please say hi. Hi, Roz. Hello, darling. I hope you are having a great day in Sydney. I know you're in Sydney, so I hope you're having a great day in Sydney. Thanks for saying hi. Anybody else out there want to say hi? And if you have a question, please feel free to post it in the comments below my live, and I will absolutely answer them for you. More than happy to answer any question that you may have. Generally, what I do when I go live, hi, Tanya. Hello. Hi. Thanks for saying hi. See how excited I get when people say hi to me? My whole face lights up. Oh, hello, Carly. Hi. Nice to see you, honey. I haven't seen you for a little while. I guess you're having a good time enjoying the Canadian summer. My son, actually, my second eldest son, has just landed in Vancouver this morning. So, because he wants to go and work at Whistler work through their ski season. So he's just arrived, and is getting to know Vancouver, which I think is a fantastic city. So I'm very, very excited for him. Hi, Andrew. Hello. All right. Nice to see you. Thanks for saying hi. Hi, Lee. Thank you again for saying hi. And Trish. Hi, Trish. Trish from New Zealand. Awesome. Love the fact that we've got people from lots of different places here. Yeah, it is very, very cool, Carly. My son is this very tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed cutie. I've got to say, I'm a biased mother. I get it, but yeah, Finn. He's a very, very lovely, sensitive soul, that one. So yeah, he's hoping to get a job and work the ski season. He's been in Europe for the past few months, so I don't know when I'll see him, because I'll have to fly over to Canada for a visit. Why not? I have to pop in and see you, Carly. Okay, everybody. So if you have a question, and thanks so much for letting me know where you're from and where you're listening from. If you have just joined, please say hi, and let me know. Do you have a question? Is there something going on with you? Yeah, I think he'll do pretty well with his Aussie accent in Whistler. I agree, Carly. Absolutely. Is there something that I can help you with? Do you have a question? What's going on for you? Generally on these lives, I share if there's been a theme, and there always is during the week in what I'm teaching and sharing, whether it's with my relatable students or with my private clients. So I always find by the end of the week there has been a theme. That's why I tend to do these on a Friday, so I can share with you some of the things that I've seen my clients or my students kind of dealing with. And because I generally find if there's a few people dealing with it, then that is generally going to be of help to the wider community, because we are a lot more the same than we realize. There is I know when I make that comment, people get triggered by that, but we really are. We're not as different as we think we are, and there is a lot more sameness amongst us than we understand. And really, when people look in the direction of sameness, when they see and get a sense of what I'm talking about and pointing to, it has a profound and very dramatic impact on their relationships. Hi, Catherine. Hello. Thanks for saying hi. Do appreciate that. So lovely. So these Fridays lives are really all about giving you an opportunity to do that. And hi, Bonita. Hello from Georgia. I love this. This is so cool. Hi, Bonita from Georgia. Beautiful. Someone in Georgia is saying hello. We've got someone from Canada, someone from New Zealand, people from Australia. It's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your kind words. I really, really appreciate that. I really do. And for those of you who are listening on YouTube, I also appreciate you coming in and saying hi. I don't have as many listeners on YouTube because I've just started kind of broadcasting there in the last few months. But if you are on YouTube, a really warm welcome to you too. So for those of you who aren't familiar with me or maybe know a little bit about what I do, I really do offer you a very different way to be in relationship. A lot of people find this to be a breath of fresh air because I'm simplifying things and showing you an easier way to connect, relate to anything and everything in your life, because there is not an area in our life when we are not in relationship. Basically every moment of every day, every time you are interacting with someone, you are in relationship with that person. Every interaction is a form of relationship. So this is a massive part of our lives. It's the heart and soul of everything. And when you really think about it, people who do relationships well find life much, much easier to navigate from all areas, from all accounts. I find people, I'm working with a guy who is in a very big corporation at the moment, in charge of a multi-million dollar, several $100 million project, and he's really noticing this, that as the quality of his relationships are changing, his work has become so much easier. He doesn't have to go in and put out as many fires. He's not trying to manage people so well. He's actually finding that people are more solutions focused, that they're working things out for themselves and they're getting on with the job, and productivity is up. So there's not an area where this doesn't ripple out when you do relationships well. And of course, he's noticing he's coming home and he's a lot more connected to his wife and his children. So what does that mean? He shows up to work and he's happier to be there. He's got more bandwidth. He feels good. And as he's noticing, with all of us, when we feel good, we get access to completely different thinking. All right. So the ripple effect of that flows out everywhere. Everywhere. And here's the places. I really want you to know this, because we misunderstand the power of this. Here's where the places and ways in which this ripples out. I see people make better decisions about their general health, about the food that they put in their bodies, about how much alcohol they drink. Because guess what? When we're in a better feeling and a higher level of well-being, all boats rise with the tide. So this ripples out everywhere. People suddenly feel they've got a greater level of motivation to exercise. They're making better choices, as I just said, with the food that they eat. They're finding it easier to say no to things that they would generally go, oh, I can't be bothered, I'll just have that. So, there's an all over ripple effect that occurs in your life everywhere. So this is something that I see as the lifeblood of everything. When you do relationships well, your mind is clearer. You have more bandwidth for the day-to-day things that crop up in your life. You have access to better thinking. You become really good at creating goodwill. And in fact, goodwill becomes one of those things that you just naturally do. It's not something you have to think about. It just becomes the way things are. And this is the little ways in which goodwill shows up. And I want to give you an example of this because this has come up a few times this week. I finished work quite late last night, like really quite late. I was working with a couple of clients in the UK, so that means it's morning for them when it's night time for me. So I probably finished work at around 9 p.m. It's been a pretty long day. I walked into the lounge room, and the first thing, and I was feeling pretty. What's the word? I was feeling pretty tired at that stage, and my husband said, "Oh, you look so pretty in that color, honey. It's really nice to see you." It was the first thing he said to me. And immediately I felt a lift, went, "Oh, do I? Oh, thanks." He goes, "Yeah, you look really beautiful. It's so nice to see you." Now, people think goodwill requires effort. It requires you to concentrate. This is the kind of stuff that just starts to show up when you feel good. All right? Just little comments like that just show up. And look, don't get me wrong, this is not happening every moment of every day, okay? There are definitely moments where my husband, wouldn't notice that because he's got his own stuff going on. But, it's showing up, it shows up a lot more often. And so you're just bouncing off each other. Okay, there's room and there's space. There's also been moments this week where my husband's come home tired and he's been a bit grumpy, and I've seen exactly what's going on for him. And I'm not there making caustic little comments. I'm just jumping in to see where can I give him a bit of support, because he needs a bit of support. So what are we doing right now? We're both instinctively thinking about what the other person needs rather than what we need straight off the bat. Okay. And this is one of the beautiful ripple effects and impacts of goodwill. Now, you can take that out into any relationship. This is what happens in teams of people who work together. They start thinking about what the team needs as opposed to what each individual person needs. So they start the whole health of the team lifts. This is what you start seeing in families, okay? The health of the family lifts. You start seeing this in couples. The health of the couple lifts because you're now bouncing off each other and it's like compound interest, okay? So things just get better and better and better and better. And what starts to happen is you assume the best with each other rather than assuming the worst. So, these are some of the things that shows you that goodwill is low. Now, sometimes we make this mean, oh, there's a lack of trust, there's a lack of this, there's a lack of that. And it's like, hang on a minute. You build goodwill and watch the trust come back. You build goodwill and watch the communication come back. You build goodwill and watch the playfulness, sense of humor, lightheartedness come back. You build goodwill and watch the intimacy come back. Okay? You can't create intimacy with no goodwill. You can't expect people to communicate well with no goodwill. You can't expect people to be playful with no goodwill. You can't expect people to assume the best with no goodwill. Can you see the common denominator? Can you see how important it is? Yet what we do is we try and build all those things. We try and force someone to be, put pressure on our partner or someone to be more intimate when there's no goodwill. We put pressure on someone to talk to us when there's no goodwill. We put pressure on someone to make someone wrong when they assume the worst when there's no goodwill. Okay? This is the driver, it's the engine of everything. Okay? Now, when you see this and you start to bring this into your life, what happens? This amazing ripple effect starts to be created amongst people. Right? People become more lighthearted. They crack a joke with each other. They're playful. They take things less seriously. Instead of having getting upset because someone's left the wet towel on the floor, they just quietly hang it up and get on with it. Instead of feeling resentment because one person's done more than another, where it feels like it's a competition, those thoughts just stop even coming through. They start thinking about, oh, what can I do to make life easier for this person? They start, I was talking about this with a client last week, which I thought was quite gorgeous. He's saying, Fiona, there's so much goodwill here now that I find myself naturally stopping at the shops on the way home and making sure that dinner's taken care of. It's not something that ever would have occurred to me before, but it just does. And it's not that my wife has even asked me to. That's what I just find myself doing. So these are the kinds of things that I hear. Okay, I really do. And you will see this in your teenagers. You will see this in friends, family, because that is just the ripple effect that goodwill brings. Now, what you need to know, okay, is that you are the creator of that. You don't need to wait for it to be created for you. You are the creator of that. Every single one of you has that capacity. Every single one of you, right? Once you see how powerful you are and how easy it is, and I know sometimes if you're in a really difficult situation with someone and there's been a lot of arguing and a lot of friction and a lot of tension and you're walking on eggshells, what I'm talking about might seem inconceivable. And I totally appreciate that. And I'm certainly not trying to diminish that in any way. But I do want you to know, no matter what the situation is, no matter what it is possible for you to create that. Okay? Now, when you do, things become easier. To the degree to which they become easier, I don't know. But they do. They become easier. Much, much easier for you and everyone around you. Now, I can tell you right now, based on the amount of people I get to talk to each and every week, that this is what people are looking for. This is what people want. Believe me, it is. And you have the capacity to create that. Hello, Eva. Hi. Thanks for saying hi. Appreciate that. Rose, have I said hello to you? I can't remember if I haven't. Hello. Beautiful always to see you, Rose. Thank you so much for saying hi. Hi, Eva. Thanks so much for dropping in. Now, I want to check in and see with you guys if what I'm saying makes sense, because this is something I know I've talked about this before, but I have a lot of people asking me about it. And I know a lot of people tune in live to these things who haven't heard this stuff before each week. So I really wanted to address this It's come up a few times this week where a lot of people have said, oh, my partner takes everything I say seriously. I've obviously broken their trust. And I sort of say, not necessarily that you've broken their trust. It just means that goodwill is low. Okay. When you are taking everything personally with one another, when it feels like you're in competition, as in who's done more than the other, who's worked harder than the other, who's cooked more dinners than the other, who's right, when it feels like you're like that, these are, and you're not communicating well, that's a sign goodwill is low. And you need to do something about it ASAP. Because what happens when goodwill is low, and it has been low for a while, is people stop wanting to hang out with each other. They gravitate towards other things. People are more likely to spend more time at work, with the kids, with their friends, online. Okay? And so what starts to happen is they notice they feel good in those places, but they don't feel good with you. And then people make that mean all sorts of things. All right? And it's a very slippery slope from there. So if you know this is going on, you got to change that ASAP. And believe me, goodwill feels amazing. It does. It feels amazing. It's the best thing. I went from someone who had an addiction to being right to someone who now absolutely has an addiction to creating goodwill. I love it. There's no downside to it at all. It does not diminish you in any way. It expands you. It expands the relationship. It takes everything to another level. But often, right, we don't create goodwill because, we don't create goodwill because we don't agree with the other person, or we think the other person hasn't behaved in the way we want them to, or we feel that the other person needs to do more before we're going to be prepared to do it. And that's when you end up in a situation where you are now horse trading. That destroys goodwill. Okay? And that means you're caught up in your ego. You can't create goodwill from your ego. All right? You can't, because the ego is very focused on what? The me. The ego is not focused on the we. All right? The ego is very focused on the me. And when we get focused on the me, it's a slippery slope. Hi, Rika. Hi. Hello. Oh, what a beautiful greeting. I love that. Thank you. That's so kind, so lovely. Thank you for saying hi. I really appreciate it. So I want to check in. What does goodwill mean for you? Do you have an understanding of what I'm talking about? And do anyone here listening in, because people always do, this is just human nature, right? People have yeah buts to what I'm saying. So does anyone have a yeah but to what yeah, I can see that, Fiona, but what about, right? Because, I tend to find people listen from one of two places, okay? Yeah, I know that, and yeah, but. Now, if you find yourself listening from either one of those places, please know you are limiting innocently, okay, what it is that you are looking for here. You're limiting what you can see in this conversation. The minute you do that, you limit it. And this is another thing people can't see that they do. Hi, Fiona. Do you have time to talk about emotional enmeshment? I don't know what you mean by that, Roz. I think you'd have to explain to me what you mean by emotional enmeshment. Sounds complicated, but yeah, you'd have to let me know what you mean by that, okay? For me to be able to talk to that. Anybody else finding what I'm saying making sense? Can you see how you can create some more goodwill in your relationships? Or are you finding yourself sitting there with a yeah, but? Oh, but they don't deserve it. Or they haven't been nice enough. Why do I have to be the one to do all the work? Why can't they? Yeah, but they've done this, they've done that. If you got a lot of yeah, buts going on, just curious. Let me know. And if anyone's just tuned in, we're talking about goodwill and the power of goodwill in a relationship. And if you would like to say hi, please do so below. Or if you have a question, feel free to post it below. Anyone got any feedback on what I've been saying? Has this been helpful? Does it make sense? Have you got resistance to it? How is it landing for you? I'd really love to know. I'd really love to know. And if you've just tuned in, I'd love you to say hi. We're talking about the power of goodwill and how it's the engine house for any and every relationship in our lives, and how it ripples out. Sometimes I do have a yeah, but, and then it leaves me in a low feeling when I just lead with, I'm presuming you mean love. I feel so much better. Absolutely. When you lead with love, everything is easier. Now, the problem is a lot of us think that there has to be a lot of rules. People have a lot of rules and regulations about love. Okay. People have a lot of rules and a lot of regulations about love. And it's those rules and regulations that get in the way. All right. Um, Hey, Susan, thanks for saying hi. Nice to see you, honey. As always, thank you so much. Um, Trish, but how do you stay in goodwill? Great question. Great question. I'll come back to that in a second. Marie, first time listening, watching this makes so much sense. I try to come from a place of ease and love so goodwill connects with me as well. 100%, right? 100%. Okay. It ripples out this way as much as it does that way. Okay. That's the power of goodwill. And it's very simple and very easy, but it's unbelievable how complicated people make that and how people will focus on complicated things when they haven't taken care of this one simple thing, right? This is the powerhouse of everything. If you haven't taken care of that, stop trying to talk about your problems. You've got no, it's just going to be a disaster. Stop trying to communicate if you don't have that. People are going to be, people are too defensive and don't have the capacity to listen, right? Listening is an incredibly important part of communication, but if there's no goodwill, people are not listening. And therefore they're going to find it really hard to communicate. Emma, hi, Emma. Rika, hi Fiona. Nice to see you too. Hi Rika. For me, leave the problems and queries to one side and just focus on that good feeling. I don't always remember that this is what it's about. Yeah. Okay. See, it sounds too simple. People say to me all the time, "It can't be that simple, Fiona." And I'm like, "Oh yes, it can. You just haven't seen it yet. It absolutely can, and it absolutely is." Okay. Absolutely 100%. We have these conversations all the time in with my relatable students, and they start to see it and they're like, OMG. It really is like that. And I have this capacity in me that I never ever knew existed. It's truly it's one of my great joys in seeing that wake up and come alight in the students in that program. Hi, Emma. Hi, makes perfect sense and definitely resonates. We have a power struggle with the toddler juggle and maintain a ledger. Need to let go of my ego. Yes, so important, honey. Because all that happens is you see that get mirrored back at you. Okay. You see that get mirrored back at you. So, this is the wonderful thing when you understand the way the mirror works, right? You actually see it get mirrored back at you. Go, oh, hello, there I am. Because if you're leading with ego, the other person will lead with ego because that's the tone that's been set. All right. And we often get frustrated and want them to change when really, and this is the whole thing about a mirror. Okay. This is very, very important. Another little simple thing, and you'll notice that the most profound things are the simplest. If you look in a mirror, right, and you look at your reflection and you don't like what you see, do you expect the mirror to change? Or do you change what you show up, what you bring to the mirror? Okay? Really want you to think about that for a second. If you are looking at your reflection in the mirror and you don't like what you see, do you ask the mirror to change or do you change the way you show up to the mirror? It's very important. Very, 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 very important. If you actually get what I'm just talking about right now, your whole life will change. Um, When I'm in, yeah, but I'm definitely stuck. Yes. Hi, Rose. Absolutely. Thanks for helping me see a different perspective the other day. My pleasure, honey, as always. I know it's amazing when your thinking changes and you get access to a different reality. It's hilarious. She's like, I cannot believe I was just believing that. I can't believe that reality looks so compelling when this reality is completely different. It's fascinating when you see it. Yes, that's very true, Fee. Reminds me of Gandhi's beautiful advice to be the change you want to see in the world. Yes, but we often have conditions and limits and rules and regulations, and so we limit our experience of that, and we do so quite innocently. Okay, Rika, for real, the only time I have problems with someone is when I've forgotten about the goodwill stuff. Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting, isn't it? Emma, so true. Awesome. Um, What if the other person is deep in shame, but you have forgiven them and you want to have goodwill, but they seem stuck in the shame and pushing you away? Great question, Benita. Okay. This is where you've got to become really good at holding space. All right. Don't go in there justifying and explaining and trying to push that with them, because you are just going to push them down in deeper into shame. Okay. Remember, that person does not need rescuing. If they're in shame, let them shift through it in their own way, in their own time. Okay. And just love them through it. But the minute you go into fix, the minute you go into explain, the minute you go into justify, the minute you go into reassure, they just keep getting stuck. It has the opposite effect. This is where you've got to hold space. People don't understand the power of holding space and how truly transformational that is. And it is a rare thing in our world because we are often leading with our own agenda. Oh, I want them to feel better. That's you leading with an agenda, right? Oh, I don't want them to feel that way. That's you leading with an agenda. Oh, I need to make them happy. That's you leading with an agenda, right? That's you putting yourself into a space where you don't belong. It's only frustrating if you think so, honey. Not necessarily. If you truly understand the way we work, it's a massive thing about what I teach. That becomes really easy because you know exactly what's going on, you know what's required, and it no longer makes sense to push. Okay? Everything becomes easier when you understand what is going on, and we all operate the same way. The operating system of a human being is identical, no matter your gender, no matter your past, because it's a human nature thing. All right. When we understand the nature of being human, when we can see our shared humanity, those things stop becoming frustrating. And what happens is you build more goodwill. And as you build more goodwill, that ripples out and flows on, and those kind of things. So the moments where people get lost in their frailties, the moment where you have major disagreements, they become speed humps rather than these big notches in the relationship headboard. Okay, they become speed humps without residue. You want to have speed humps without residue. Okay. Most people have conflict or something happen. And even though they come out of it after a period of time, there's all this sticky residue. And so, what does that mean? They carry it with them into the next point of difference or conflict. And then, boom, it's like a wildfire. And so this is where people end up walking on eggshells. This is where people end up trying too hard and then making it worse. Okay? Because you've got to understand when you're trying too hard, you're generally overthinking. And when we overthink, we are just not as emotionally intelligent. That's just a fact with all people, myself, all of us. Okay? So you've got to know the difference between when you're overthinking and when you're not, when your mind is clear and when it's not. So again, it's about navigating our humanness. And as you learn how to do that, those things become far less frustrating. Believe me, they are. And they become something that you move through with a lot more humility, ease, and grace, and for you and for the other person. And that has an enormous impact on goodwill. Really, it does. Because we spend way too much time trying to fix each other and far less time holding space. So I hope that makes sense. But I'm loving the feedback I'm getting here, loving the comments. Keep them coming, guys. This really helps me because, you know, ideally for you guys, I really want to be able to speak to whatever is fresh for you right now. I want to be able to speak to whatever it is that you need so that, you know, it's Friday. You've all got opportunities now to have a different experience with the people in your lives over the weekend. So let's set you up to have a great weekend with the people around you. Let's set you up to build goodwill, to have deeper connections and see what's possible and see the difference that it makes and how it ripples out. Not only the difference in the relationship, but the difference in how you feel and the difference in your level of calm. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on about the power of this. You know, I once you start living and breathing this, goodwill just becomes your default, right? It becomes your default. And I love the fact, and look, believe me, resentment used to be my default. It really did. Resentment was my default. It's not anymore. Goodwill is my default. Now, when it becomes your default, you don't even think about it. You just naturally create it. Not like you're sitting there working at it. It becomes this natural, organic thing. Truly, it does. And it does not mean that you are diminished in any way. You will actually find the more you create this and you see how much power you have in being able to create it and the ripple effect. And this has got nothing to do with gender. Okay. So if you're a male listening to this thinking, I can't do that, I promise you, you can. If you're a female listening to this thinking, I'm not really good at this, I promise you are. You just don't know it yet. It's like waking up to what's possible, because as many of you have heard me say, we are often asleep at the wheel, and what we're asleep at the wheel around is how powerful we are, what we have the potential and possibility to create, and then stepping into that space from a place of ease and knowing. When you do, everything changes. Truly it does. And it's far, far easier than you understand. It doesn't need lots of it doesn't need lots of efforting. Okay, it does not need lots of efforting. That's a myth. That's an absolute myth. Okay, I really want you to know that. There's too many things out there that will tell you that's true, and I promise you that's a myth. These are things that we can do naturally. We're built to do them well, and when you tap into the right space, it becomes this easy, effortless thing, and it feels amazing. Amazing. Greatest things ever happened to me. I can tell you right now, I'd rather live in a feeling of goodwill with the people I care about than resentment, shutdown, self-righteousness, judgment, which were a lot of my go-tos, and were things that I would points in my life, in my interactions, that I would hit really quickly. Now it's the opposite, and I'm so grateful. Okay. Okay, I've made that mistake before, so trying to be calm and give space. Awesome, love it. Needed to rehear this about goodwill. Good for you, Rose. Me too, Carly. I hope she responds to this. I need a refresher too. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Carly. So let me know if I'm speaking to that already. Got to build our goodwill muscles, yes. And so it becomes yeah, Fee. So it becomes an organic, automatic thing rather than something you have to really think about. Okay. What can you do to rebuild goodwill? Well, take a moment. Rebuilding goodwill is all about thinking about the we first rather than the me first. Okay? The we rather than the me. It's about being generous and compassionate and kind and understanding and loving first, rather than, all right, I'm going to be standoffish and wait over here and see if they're nice to me. If they're nice to me, I'll be nice back. Let me wait and see what kind of mood they're in before I say anything. If they're not in a good mood, I won't bother. So can you see how you are? Yes, it's a way of being. That's right, Fee. It's a way of being. Goodwill is a way of being. Absolutely. Now, when you understand that, it becomes super, super easy, right? Really, honestly. And look, I say this as someone who was addicted to getting things to being right, who was addicted to self-righteousness. I really was. And I'd done a lot of courses, study, personal development work, etc. And I was still stuck in that place, still stuck in that really horrible cycle. And it was horrible for me, let alone anybody else around me, right? Really was. All right. Well, hopefully I have responded to that question, Carly, to Trisha's question about creating and staying in a goodwill state. This is really, really important. When you understand how we work as human beings, you've got to understand how we work, the psychological functioning of a human being. When you understand that, staying and being in that place becomes really, really easy. And it becomes something that you naturally gravitate towards rather than something that you think you have to do. Okay. Anything that we think we have to do, we will not maintain. We will not maintain any kind of momentum around. Okay. Because we're going to get caught up in this kind of egocentric thinking, which is, well, I've just been really nice for the last 2 days and they haven't. I've tried really, really hard and they're not. So in other words, we're going to justify something else. Okay. Now, as soon as you do that, your entire energy is going to change. The flavor that you lead with is going to change. And all of a sudden, you will find yourself getting irritated by something the other person has done. Okay. It's just what happens. So it's something that when you see that it is a way of being, it's not a way of doing. Okay. It's a way of being. Now, remember, in life, with everything, the being generates the doing, always. The being generates the doing. Okay? No point doing the do when the being's not a match. Okay? And here's an example of doing the do when the being's not a match. So this will be someone cooking dinner, hubby, wife, whoever walks in the door. You're feeling resentful and tired, so you're slamming cupboards. turning the gas on the cooktop quite aggressively. You got a bit of this going on. Maybe you're vigorously chopping those vegetables, right? Partner walks in the door. How are you? Yeah, fine. How was your day? Yeah, fine. Right. And they go, right, okay. And maybe you're peeling the vegetables, you throw things into the bin, slam the dishwasher drawer. You've got a bit of this, you open the fridge and slam it. It's a bit of passive aggressiveness going on, okay? All right. Now, this is someone doing the do. They're making dinner. They're doing what needs to be done, but there is no goodwill coming from that person whatsoever, right? This is what I mean by doing the do, but the being's not a match. This is the kind of stuff that happens all the time. So your being has to be a match. You lead with your being, all right? Now, you got to understand, you can be doing all of the things, but if your being is not a match, people will not appreciate anything that you do. Not a single thing, right? And I'm laughing because this is a trap we all fall into, right? Where we're in that we're doing stuff, but we're not bringing a great energy to it. We're bringing a flavor of resentment, frustration, anger, judgment, etc. So, of course, in that frame of mind, the other person's like, "Whoa, I'm going to give them a wide berth, right? I'm not." And really, what you might be doing is cooking dinner and thinking, "Well, the least they could do is jump in and help me, couldn't they?" But oh no, this is typical. Take care of themselves first. They walk in the door, can't see how hard it is for me right now. I've had a big day with the kids or a big day at work. Here I am cooking for you. Oh, but you're going to go and have a shower. Oh, how lovely. Good for you. Oh, at least someone's got time to have a shower. I mean, God knows if I'll even get one today or even tomorrow, but you do you, right? This is the kind of things going on in people's heads, right? Okay. This is exactly what is going on in people's minds. Okay. And so this is a really classic example of, and I'm laughing because we all do it, right? We all do it. All of you people listening, I'm telling you, you've all done that. You've all been there. This is what I mean by the shared humanity. If you're listening going, oh, dolt, that sounds really familiar, don't worry. Everyone else is. Everyone's done it. Me too. Okay. Me too. But it's hilarious because we get caught up in that. And then we wonder why the other person doesn't want doesn't want to even come near us. It's like, well, I'm not going near that. Like that's like walking into a lion's den, right? That's like walking into a river full of crocodiles. Forget it, okay? For you guys in Florida, alligators. I'm not going near there. I'm going as far away as possible. So what's happening right now? You have two me's, no we. This person's in me mode. How dare they? They're not helping me. I'm tired. Can't they see how hard I'm working? This is blah, 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 right? Frustration, frustration. The other person's in me mode. Oh my God, I'm not going near them. That's way too scary for me. I can't deal with that. They're always in a foul mood. This is just so typical. Nothing I can do is right. I'm not even going to start. I'm going to have a shower, or I'm going to go to the toilet and sit on Facebook for half an hour, or whatever people do to avoid each other, okay? Because it doesn't feel good. Right? Now, when it doesn't feel good, people do not spend time together. They do everything they can to avoid it. Okay? Can you see how this makes sense? It's like, if it doesn't feel good, why would someone come and help you? Right? Why would they? Even if they know they should. I'm not going to put myself in that situation. All right? What if they stab me? They look like they're going to stab me with a knife, I'm not going near that. Now, you could sit there and have these thoughts, and I hear these things all the time. Well, they need to step up. Honestly, if you have that in your vocabulary, remove it immediately. That is the most toxic, and I hear this in personal development programs. It is toxic. This whole, they've got to step up. Oof, I want you to hear that. That is judgy. It's arrogant. It creates a sense of hierarchy where someone is higher up the food chain than the other. It's a sense of superiority. It is vile. Take it out, right? Take it out. That's a phrase that should never have been created, and people use this as a way to justify how they're showing up. Okay, I'm telling you, you will never get what you want from somebody else or from anything when you've got that going on in the back of your mind. All right. All we've got to see is, and I'm going to come back to what I said earlier, and I've got to go in a second. The mirror, okay, everything is a mirror. Now, if you want to change the reflection in the mirror, you don't ask the mirror to change. You change the way you show up to it. Try that first, please. Consistently. Okay? Consistently. I'm working with this guy, and he it was really funny. I was speaking to him this morning, and he said, he went home to his wife, and he went on to his wife recently, and was bringing Goodwill, right? And her first words to him, and I started laughing. He was laughing as well. Her first words to him was, "What have you done? What have you done? What's happened?" And he said, "Nothing." She said, "Something must have happened. What have you done?" Because that's how low Goodwill is, right? That's how low that when he's being nice, she doesn't trust it. She thinks that he's trying to butter her up to tell her that I crashed the car on the way home or something's happened. Okay. So we were laughing. He said, "Wow, I was quite shocked. My wife did not take that at face value at all. Her first thought were, what have you done? Tell me. No, you've done something. What is it? Come on, just tell me. Don't, and he said it was a real shock to me. I realized, wow, I need to bring a lot more to the table around that, because that is not, my wife was suspicious of me being nice, right? Think about that for a second. What is the precedent that's in place if you're nice and your partner is suspicious about that? That speaks volumes. Okay. All right, everybody. I hope this was helpful for you. I have to go because I've got a client session, and I haven't had lunch yet. I'm starving. So lots of love to you all. If you really, if you want to tune in live next week, I will here just after 12. Normally I start 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you want to know more about my online program Relatable, where I teach you step by step, I've just put the link to Relatable for you up on the screen or in the chat. So by all means, this is where you learn this stuff. We have an amazing time, an amazing conversation. It is truly, truly, truly amazing program, and people absolutely love it. So that's how you can find out more about that. You want to know how to create goodwill, hold space, all of the things I'm talking about. That's where I talk about it. That's where I teach it. And I teach it to people all over the world. Doesn't matter about your past or your gender or your age or what's happened. This whole conversation about too much water under the bridge, not relevant. I promise, guys, doesn't matter. You can easily overcome that stuff. All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for your kind comments. I wish you all a wonderful weekend. See you next Friday. Ciao.